school.
I can say why, because of the data. The data supports that our kids are not graduating at 100% rate. So if until the college graduation rate meets 100%, we are not serving our students well in whole by saying that the only way you can be successful in life is to go to a four-year university. That's not true. My high school, like I said, closed the achievement gap for Black and brown kids. We had a 21 average on the ACT, which is unheard of in our country. That being said, our current graduation rate of my first two classes is sitting around 40%. And that's out of 250 kids times two. 500 kids. That means 60% of my kids are at home with no employability skills, no industry certification, no ability to earn a livable wage in many respects. And they're working and don't get me wrong, a lot of them are doing fine for themselves. They're working at the airport. They've gotten some low skill, high wage jobs, but they are not living the American dream. And that's the reality. And 40% is double the national average. KIPP has been doing this longer than any charter network in the country, and they pour millions into their to and through college, KIPP through college program, and they are not hitting 40%. So that means we're sending kids off, and then 60% of our kids are home. And in some respects, because they oftentimes default on loans, owe a bill to a school and can't go back, we've increased poverty and not decreased poverty by teaching our kids that you shouldn't go to the military or you shouldn't become a construction worker, which would allow you to feed your family and live independently. We are doing a disservice, and no other race is putting their kids in schools that are 100% saying this is the only way, because it's not.
And a lot of our kids, the other point too, is once they get to college, they're taking those remedial classes. So they're still not even ready. So they're spending more money
for the schools that haven't closed the achievement gap.
Exactly.
Right. So and the conversation about school choice, right? Yes. And so like the model,
back, David.
The model, I will. the model of Tinley is college or die, and what it's saying is that our goal for your child, if you send your child here, is to put them on the path to college. I'm not saying that's the only way to be successful, but what we're saying is this is a specialty that we're going to have in our school, that the children that come to Tinley, we're going to set you on the path to college. We can rattle through the numbers of scholarships and graduates at Tinley, but this is simply about, you said about college or die, right?
I just don't like the structure of the military. I feel like, why do we have to say that in order for a black kid to be successful, we have to equate it to them being in the military?
No, we're saying a Tinley scholar.
I'm just saying in general.
Yeah. People in general say that about college is the only way?
No, never
run
mind.
That graduation rate. Until you can run that graduation rate and tell me it's 100% of alum, and I know there are some years, because I've talked to the founders about it, where it's nearing 75%. It's not 100, and the other 25%, if we had done something different with that group and been honest about college may not be in the best place for them, their life outcomes may be different. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
I see both
and
points.
We're preparing our kids for college. So don't get me wrong. Every student that leaves me will leave with an Indiana Core 40 honors diploma. So when they choose, or if they choose to go to college, they should be academically prepared to do so, because college, a 4-year degree, is still the number one income gap closer in our country. I'm not disputing that at all. I'm just saying if your life circumstances don't allow you to do that, or family circumstances don't allow you to do that, we need to make sure you have a fallback plan and other options. And I think schools that are college or die don't necessarily provide that.
So to your point, if we were talking about school choice, you have that lane, and that's, like you said, that's what you specialize in. And if that parent feels like that's what they want to put their child in, then it works for them. So I get it.
Me too.
So back to the benefits. We'll go back to some of the benefits of, what do you think some of the benefits are for parents and students for school choice?
I think parents get to find a school that, I think, Robert, you said, that best fits their child and where they feel at home, in a school that feels like an extended family. So when they drop their child off to that school, that parent can go about their day and feel confident and comfortable that their child will be taken care of, will be loved on, will be educated, will be safe, and the same way that they drop them off will be the same way they pick them up, right? And those are the benefits, right? When a parent can pick a school based off of that, and not a school that's where my zip code is, and I might not even like that school, but I'm being beholden to sending my child there. I think those are the benefits of having that school choice. That if I live on the east side, but I want to drive west because I want to choose a school out there, then that fits me.
Okay. What I would add to that is we know that marginalized groups have been victims of things like redlining and unfair access to housing and things like that. And so our affluent white counterparts have been practicing school choice for years by just living where they know there are quote unquote high quality schools, because I know we'll get to that later. But I think this just provides more access for all parents, not just some that happen to be privileged to be able to pick their the school of their choice. And then I think about my two kids who are very different. I have my artsy kid. I have my kid who's good at sports, and they go to two different schools because it fits their needs. And I'm a proud parent who practices school choice.
Okay. So we're going to move on to the next question. This is always a hot topic for me. What should parents look for when choosing a school that best fits their child? So we know a lot of parents just really aren't familiar with things that they should be considering when they're talking about where am I going to send my child. I know for experience, a lot of parents are really, when it comes to school choice, aren't exercising choice based on things like the letter grade of the school. You know, for them, they're exercising school choice based off their life circumstances. What school offers transportation? What school offers before and after school care? What school can my child walk to? So they're making decisions about choice based off of life situations and what's best for them as a parent versus academic standards, or I won't say standards, but academic goals for their child. So what should a parent be looking at? And then for charters, a lot of times you guys don't provide transportation. So that kind of limits some of the choices for parents when you have those parents who would love to come, but we know that they can't get there. So what are some things from a academic, because I think you wrote a blog. Didn't you do a blog on this, Kiana? Or
I did. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So what are some things parents should be looking at when it comes to school choice when they're trying to find a school that's the best fit for their child?
So when I think across the board for that, I think about reading level. So I would want to know where my child's reading level is and where they're going to grow. And for me, I went to a suburban high school. I won't say the name, but was quoted as being one of the best in the state. And there wasn't learning happening in that school. There were students who had high test scores when they came in and when they left. And so I would, more than a letter grade, which are always going to be inflated in certain areas where there's pockets of where there's more affluent parents, I would be looking for growth and learning. And then for me, when I look at schools for my children, myself, I look at the leader. Is this someone that I can trust? Is this a person of integrity? Is this a person that will care about my child? And then there's other things. You have to look at the child holistically. So would they thrive better in a larger school or a smaller school? But I think for me, it's really important. That literacy program is really, really important to me early on. And then when I get to the high school level, I want to know which type of data they're producing. But I think for me, always been more interested in the ACT scores, SAT scores than ISTEP. And I've always been more interested in learning. And then I'm going to look at achievement gaps, because if your school is only working for some people, that's a huge issue. So when I talk about achievement gaps, I mean, what is the gap between the students of color and your white students? What are the gaps between students with a disability and your gen ed population?
Anybody want to add anything to that?
I think the data piece is huge to me. I think we've got to produce academic results for our kids, and having a nationally normed test to benchmark against, to say not only how are our kids performing across the state of Indiana, but how are our kids performing across the country is really important. And unfortunately, there isn't a lot of transparent data in our city, and that's something that I advocate for a lot of times with the local politicians and powers that be, because I think we have to increase academic accountability so that parents can see what's happening in all of our schools, and we need to make it real plain, real clear, so that anybody can look it up and say, oh, okay, this school is not academically not creating an environment of academic achievement for students whole scale. And I just don't feel like we're there yet, and I think that's an equity issue in our city.
So since they spoke on the academic piece, I'm going to speak on a piece about relationships. So what parents should look for is that school that's going to open the doors to you. If that school is not opening the doors for you to be a part of your child's learning, then that's not a school I feel that you shouldn't send your child to, because there's something going on. I tell my parents all the time, we got an open door policy. I have nothing to hide. Not at all. So you can come in anytime you want to, sign the lobby guard, get you a badge, and you can sit in your child's classroom. I ask that you don't interrupt the teacher, but if you want to take notes and schedule that meeting and talk to that teacher, that is your right. And I think when parents look at a school, you make sure that school has the best interest of your student, but also you. And I think, because I think it's one of the things that we're trying to practice, on Summit, on the East Side, you want to look for a school that's engaged in the community. If you're not trying to engage and extend the arm out to the community, you're not trying to bring the community within the school or extend that reach and do more for your kids. I think we talked about it, those programs, or building them up. We just had an event, Summit Girl Magic, where we brought in women to talk to our young ladies. We're doing the same thing for the boys. Like, those are things that parents should look for. We're all striving for academic achievement. We're all trying to find the best curriculum, train the best teachers. But, and I'm speaking to people in the room, but not all of us are trying to engage families and engage the community. Not all of us are trying to put in things in place where we're educating parents on how to be a better parent, how you can support your scholar in the school, at home, with the curriculum. Like, those are things I think that parents should look for, and those are things that schools should do as well.
Robert, you want to add anything?
I would encourage you. They gave excellent points. I would encourage any parent that is trying to make a decision about a school to take the tour, walk those halls, get an understanding of what that environment and what it feels like. Are the hallways chaotic during passing periods, or are kids actually helping to facilitate a learning environment? Just because you walk into a classroom and kids are sitting down doesn't make it a good classroom, right? And so pay attention and see, what's actually being taught, how scholars are actually responding, how they're engaged in the classroom, how are scholars interacting with one another, because that'll tell you how your kid's personality, and so you get a feel of how will my kid fit in this school community, or maybe they will not. But take the tour. And a lot of times we ask the families when they come sign up to take a tour, bring your kid with you, because I need to have some conversation as school leader with your kids, so I can explain what some of the expectations are, and I also want to explain what they're seeing to them. But as a parent, you want especially for middle school and high school, you need your kids' input on whether they feel like they'd be a good fit in that space.
So I'm going to put a twist to the next question. How can parents become advocates for choice? I know that this is not the question that's on there, but as I'm thinking about it, we talk about empowering our parents. How can they become advocates for school choice? Because quite frankly, along with the student voice, that's who needs to be advocating for the right to be able to send their child to whatever school they want to send their child based on the best fit. So how can they become advocates for choice?
I have 3 things that I always encourage parents to do, because we actually get this question a lot from families who are just really happy about what's going on. I think the first thing is just to give us just tell people what's going on in the schools, what you like about your schools, push it on social media. I think the second thing is to talk to your legislators, send them emails, send them letters, let them know that you're a proud parent of choice and that you'll continue to be. And I think the third thing is get involved in your local school board elections, because those actually affect school choice a little bit more than most people would think. And I think I read a statistic, and I hate to say this wrong, but I believe it said about 60% of people vote in their local board election. So that means only 60% of the population, and that's a D, that's not good, is making the choices for what happens in how our districts are run. So I think that piece is really important. So be aware of who's running for the school board, be aware of what their stances are. And then if you don't like their stances, you need to speak to them about it, let them know. And on the other hand, you need to encourage them if they are making choices that you like, let them know that you appreciate it.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
Just want to give a quick shout out to Ashley Verdon and the work she's doing.
She was on last week.
I know.
I asked her to come back at the last minute. That's my fault that she wasn't here this week.
Really good friend of mine. Her scholars do go to Tinley Summit, but I think what she's doing to try to bring families together, bring parents together, to educate parents, everything that you said about get involved with your local school board elections, pushing those things on social media, understanding the whole school choice, the conversation. I think her organization that she's building and galvanizing families around is exactly what will answer this question. So I encourage families, parents that are listening, school leaders that are listening that are struggling with that, reach out to Ashley because she definitely has some great ideas. And there's other organizations as well, but she's my friend, so I'm going to